Welcome to Lyme Time. I'm Ali from the Tick Chicks. We are all more than Lyme disease and chronic illness, and together we stand with you to overcome and rise. I'll bring you closer to the experts in cutting-edge treatments and even a few unexpected ways of healing. I'll ask the questions you want answers to regarding Lyme disease and successful ways of getting you closer to 100%. We are in this together and will not be defined by Lyme. Today's guest is Dr. Jaban Moore, and I'm very excited to be speaking with him. He is definitely out there in the social media platforms talking about wellness and Lyme disease and all sorts of things. So I'm glad to have him here. Dr. Moore's passion for restoring health through a multi-therapeutic approach came from a young age when his mother was diagnosed with diabetes after a 3-year struggle trying to figure out what was causing her health to decline. She was diagnosed only because she was in a car accident, and in the ER, she was told that she was a diabetic. Her doctors noted that it was possibly missed for years, and by that point, she had gained 100 pounds. Her cholesterol was out of control. She had ulcers in her stomach, depression, high blood pressure, and chronic fatigue. Growing up, Dr. Moore watched his mother's condition progress, adding new medications and symptoms by the year, never curing or making her feel better for long, just stabilizing one symptom until the next started. This eventually led to thyroid cancer and 2 surgeries to remove the cancer. Through this experience, Dr. Moore found his mission to discover the root cause of a condition so that the progression can be stopped, so that the next person doesn't have to go through a story like hers. So welcome to Lyme Time, Dr. Moore.
Well, thanks for having me. And although my mom started my journey, I got hit with Lyme disease in college. So I already had a new mindset of finding root causes by the time that hit me, which is probably how I was able to get through it quicker than maybe some others.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about your journey. Let's just start out with that. Talk a little bit about your mom, and then also your own, how your own Lyme disease came to be, in your opinion.
Yeah, no, my mom is still struggling to some degree. Once she found out what her situations actually were, there was a lot of damage done, organs removed, cancers created. So it really pushed me to learn and understand and find a way to be able to educate people that so much of chronic illness can be stopped or prevented if we really just take steps to do so. And then when I got sick in college, I was in chiropractic school. I was in the best shape of my life. I was eating well, sleeping, going to school, working out. I mean, all the things that you think you would be able to be healthy from. And it felt like the floor fell out from under me. But, when I look back in my history, as so many people do, you start to notice like, oh, in college, my strength levels weren't what they probably could have been. It didn't seem like I was getting stronger. I had a lot of knee pain. There were some things. So I think Lyme really hit me probably toward the end of high school or early college. I think it really flared up when I stayed in a moldy basement. I was living in a duplex and I was like, oh, I'll stay in the basement. It's the biggest room. It's colder down there. I love the cold in comparison to, 95-degree Missouri humidity heat. But I saw mold literally growing up the wall. I didn't really care. Like I didn't think about it. I was a college kid. It was like, it's cheap to live here. It's $200 a month. Great. And then when I graduated and I lost all my weight from being a collegiate athlete, symptoms just started pouring in because no longer did I have that extra mass and testosterone to displace some of the toxins and infections. So that's kind of where the sickness came from. And then when I was in school, I went through the same journey so many go through. I mean, I imagine people listening to this can relate. You go to one doctor, like, oh, well, fatigue and brain fog as you're getting older is normal. By the way, I was 25. And then I ended up developing erectile dysfunction. Well, that just happens to some guys. There's pills for that. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to accept that. Like no guy wants to accept that I got to take this pill to be able to do anything. So, you sit down and you start thinking about like, am I going to be able to have a family? What's this going to be like trying to date? I already have pain and brain fog. Like, why do I feel 50? My dad works 70 hours a week construction. I don't even feel like I can do that. So, that downturn. And then you go to the next doctor and they're just like, oh, well, maybe take some L-arginine. It's a functional medicine doctor. That can help with blood flow. Well, it's still not fixing the problem. That's just putting a Band-Aid on it if it worked at all. Maybe it's a more natural Band-Aid, but still a Band-Aid, just like the pill that I was offered from the first doc. So I kept going to conferences because I was in school. So I was able to go to training conferences. And finally, somebody's like, well, have you ever thought about Lyme disease? I said, well, yeah, I have. I said, no, I haven't. What is it? What's going on with it? I've heard about it. I don't know what it is. And he's like, well, it's an infection, but I don't really know what it is. And I don't know how to treat it either. And I go, well, what the heck? Like, how do I find somebody for this? So I finally found somebody. Long story short, went to get treated. And it was somebody that was an expert, Dr. Alan Lindsley in Wisconsin. I drove all the way up there. He gave me a protocol, gave me a direction, got me lined up. We're personal friends now. And long story short, I am well. I am 35 years old. I've done CrossFit in the last week. I work probably way too much. I have none of my previous symptoms. And my wife, who tells me all the time that I act like I'm 20, because I'm go, go, go. I mean, like, you can recover, and you just have to find the right doc. And then also you got to put in the effort, right? Like, it's not always easy. So I just wanted to make sure people have hope as part of what we do in my clinic.
Yeah. And I think it's because of people like yourself and myself who actually been there. I mean, so much of what you just said, I went through it too. I mean, I couldn't understand how my, 80-year-old parents could outperform me. I was like, aren't you guys exhausted? It'd be 7 p.m., and they're still living their best life and everything. And I knew something was completely off. And it was also it took me years to find the right doctor that actually mentioned Lyme, just like in a casual, like, have you ever thought about this? And exactly like you. Yes, I had thought about it, but it seemed so complicated and not really, was it a thing or not a thing? It takes a minute to actually get there. And I was in California going to some great doctors, just wasn't at the top of anybody's list. So you finished school and now you're a great chiropractor. Are there advantages to chiropractic and with Lyme disease? I mean, what kind of treatments do you see or do you like to implement in the chiropractic umbrella?
So I am a chiropractor by degree, which allows me to be a physician within the state of Missouri and many, many more, most of them. But the advantage to chiropractic is we don't depend on medication. So when you are an MD or a DO, there's a standard of health that has been put out there, and that standard of health in Lyme disease is doxycycline, and they're supposed to give you that for 2 weeks, and that's supposed to be the standard of how they treat it, and they're done. Now, there's a lot of medical doctors that they do a lot more, like I network with a lot of good ones that are friends of mine, and they still may use antibiotics or other drugs, but they do a lot more. They realize there's more to it. But as a chiropractor, we're taught from the start that there's a root cause to things. That root cause in chiropractic usually is brought back to the spine, but the concept of root cause is find what's wrong, get rid of it, allow the body to heal. So with that mindset, immediately from the gate, when I went into practice and somebody walks in with chronic fatigue, brain fog, headaches, I mean, literally before this recording, one of my staff is sitting up there with a migraine. I said, why do you have a migraine? Have you started looking into the reasons why? She's newer. So she hasn't been completely indoctrinated by us, right? Of like, we don't accept pain, we don't accept problems. So then I was talking to her, I'm like, things that can cause is food allergies, parasites, etc. So that was my mindset, is what's causing the problem. So then what tools I took from that is when a client comes in, we evaluate their posture, we evaluate their spine, we check their nervous system. Are they in fight or flight? Did they have trauma? Do they need to go through some sort of nervous system healing, which could be acupuncture, it could be chiropractic, but it also could be breath work or limbic retraining, neurofeedback. So for me, chiropractic adjustments are a tool in my tool belt. The philosophy of chiropractic, which is remove the problem and allow the body to heal because it's intelligent on its own, which is the truth, is really what has driven me forward and allowed me to learn so many different modalities and techniques. I have a nurse practitioner in my clinic. If we need medications, she can prescribe. I have a chiro that does acupuncture. I do it myself, but she will do acupuncture. We have all these other tools in my clinic because, again, I'm looking for your root cause problem, which may be more than one thing, by the way. So that's another confusion that comes up. You may have Lyme disease, but if you have Lyme, you probably have a co-infection, which could be Bart, Bab, or Lichia, but you could also have parasites, Lyme, or mold, radioactive elements, or trauma, right? So I look for these root causes. We put together a roadmap we're able to work forward, and knowing that the body is designed to be healthy, it's designed to live vibrantly, it's designed to heal and adapt. With that knowledge put in my brain from all the years of chiropractic and just life and sports, that's the real piece that allows me to go, if I remove these things, then you can get well. And I see it every day. And I retrain people's mindsets every single day to go, okay, there's something blocking my vibrance, my optimal life, my ability to do what I want to do. When that's removed, the body just does it on its own. You feel better.
It's so true. I have to admit that for many years, I guess maybe 3 years, I bounced around from conventional doctor to conventional doctor. I couldn't understand why I couldn't really walk properly. I thought it was a foot issue, and then my organs started like attacking everything. And so I'd go to, just specialist after specialist in the conventional world, because I just needed, I had the mindset, I need this out. I need it removed. I need to, if it's bacteria, let's just kill it. Like I didn't understand why everybody was confused. And it got to the point where my body became so shut down that I could barely drive. And it was extremely painful for me to drive, much less do anything else. And so I went to a guy that had a great reputation, a chiropractor in my home, in my city. And it was so bad that I could barely sit on the table, and I just had tears streaming down my face. And that was the condition I showed up with. And he said, we're not, we have a few things to do before I can just start, adjusting or doing any sort of chiropractic help. And although he wasn't really a Lyme literate doctor, you're so right. I mean, as long as we, I just consider that the turning point for myself was the day I went to that chiropractor. And the fact that it didn't really dawn on me or register or speak to me much before that moment is a shame, because I just want to preach it from the mountaintops now. And you're right, the body does heal itself, but I feel like there are a lot of conventional methods that also bring along their own side effects and their own additional traumas. And if you're just stuck in that cycle, your mind isn't open to other forms of healing. You talk a lot about parasites, and I know it's one of your passions. And I don't think there's a lot of information out there in terms of where do they come from? What is the detoxification process like? And also a controversial question, which is, are as many people having parasitic problems as we think? Because it's kind of a hot button word right now. And is it actually alive in most of us? We just don't know it. Or is it a really kind of a rare situation? So there's 10 questions for you to answer.
So basically give the Lyme 101 class, or not Lyme, sorry, Parasites 101. So here we go. Parasites is definitely something I talk about, love talking about, because a lot of us are dealing with this. But is it pathogenic, or is it a symbiote in some level? We can dive into that too. So how many of us are dealing with parasites? 1 million people in the United States per year roughly end up with Giardia, which is a parasite. It's a single cellular organism. It's not a giant long worm that you're going to see, but it is a parasite. Strongyloides is affecting more than 100 million people in the world right now, which is a nematode parasite. If you look at several different studies, there was one done on autopsy of a group of MS patients. In this study, there was 100 brains autopsied, and 100 out of 100 of the MS people they had nematode parasite in their brain. 25% of those people did have Borrelia, which is the bacteria that is Lyme disease, right? So parasites are pretty common. Now, does that mean that if you have a parasite, you're going to get MS? No, it's not a direct correlation there, but it's interesting. And what we're finding is, yes, most people have parasites, especially in today in our society in westernized countries. It's probably worse here than it is in third world countries. Well, let's talk about why. In a third world country, you go to Sri Lanka, you go to Mexico, you go to Central America, South America. What do they do twice every single year? The same thing that you do to your dog, cat, horse, cow, goat, whatever it is that you have, they deworm themselves twice a year. You deworm your animal twice a year. Where's your animal at? It's in your house. Especially if you got like an indoor cat. Why would you deworm it in your house? Your house is safe, right? No, it's not, because people walk on the soil and then walk in your house and you bring in spores. Your cat rubs its butt on your pillow or your bed or your couch. And then the parasites that were in it could go into you. The parasites from the ground that you touch, the garden that you play with, the dirt in, can give spores that you can get parasites from. But even if you're super duper clean, guess what? You eat food. And I'm going to go after the less known one. Let's say you're a raw vegan. All you eat is vegetables. You still can get parasites because those vegetables will have organisms that crawl around on them on purpose to leave eggs, spores of parasites so that it can get to a host, you. And even if you wash your stuff perfectly, you're still going to get an egg in. If you eat meat, especially if you're not making it completely well done, and who wants to eat a black steak? I don't want to char my steak every time. I want to get a medium steak. Now, I'm not a raw guy, but some people are. If you eat sushi, yes, organisms can be inside those meats, and it's just part of living. So if you eat food, you can get a parasite. Here's the thing though, if you have a proper HCl balance, which is hydrochloric acid in your stomach, proper enzymes to digest in your digestive tract, proper microbiome, which is bacteria in your gut, it will defend you against many of these bacteria. There are specific named bacteria. I did an entire presentation on it. Please don't ask me to name them because it's like Lactobacillus 57932, and I don't remember the numbers. But there are specific bacteria, and I think I talked about 7 different ones, that they're actually shown to decrease the likelihood of an infection being able to take hold in your body from parasites if you have these bacteria. Well, what have we done to ourselves? We do C-section births where we don't go through the birth canal. We lose the opportunity to get some bacteria from our mother. We slam ourselves with antibacterial soaps, cleansers, and antibacteria antibiotics, right? All the time. So we're wiping out our own gut flora. We're eating smaller varieties of food, which decreases our gut flora variety. So we're losing these types of bacteria that protected us, which is now making us more vulnerable to parasites. On top of that, your body will bring parasites in on purpose because they can carry 6 to 8 times their body weight in toxicity. This is heavy metals. This is plastics and phthalates, right? So they eat this stuff up. So they mop it up for you. And if they had to just mop it up one time, they get a big meal, and then your body's like, okay, we're done. We can take care of this and get rid of it by killing the parasite. Great. But that's not how it's working. You're getting all this stuff in you because your tap water is toxic, because your detergents, your hygiene products, the food we eat that is not organic has all sorts of pesticides, herbicides all over it. So our body's bringing parasites in to clean all this up. And then, oh, well, we need more parasites to clean it up. Oh, we need more parasites to clean it up. Well, now parasites are a problem because there's too many of them. They have waste products that they release out of their own body called an endotoxin, which is their poop, which then inflames your body. They grow out of control. They block up your liver. I just had a guy this week tell me that due to one of our cleanses, he did a flush with us. He pushed out 1,000 liver flukes in one evening. And I was like, does your liver feel better? He's like, the swelling went down like 80%. Oh yeah, of course it did. After that, which no, that's not common for me to hear 1,000,
Right.
but several, yeah. So that's where they're coming from and why they're in you. But they, as I said, they can be symbiotic. They can help you to some degree if it was in a relationship like it's supposed to be. Because every single person on the planet has viruses, bacteria, and parasites in their body right now. And without them, we will die. You cannot survive without any of those things in your body, but they need to be in balance. And the world we live in, the choices we're making, and the toxins we're bringing in have put us way out of balance. So there you go.
What are some of the symptoms that people most often present with parasites?
Oh man, I just did a TikTok on this just because it was funny. So itchy butt, you can imagine I was itching my butt on TikTok. Grinding your teeth, headaches, any sort of skin rashing takes me to, is this a parasite? It could also be candida yeast, but an overgrowth of candida yeast is likely due to a parasite. GI symptoms for sure, constipation because certain roundworms release an endotoxin that stops movement of the gut, so you hold poop. And then also, on the other side, Giardia would cause diarrhea. So really any gut symptoms really are going to take me there. But terrible menstruation symptoms is another big one that I see, especially from like nematodes like strongyloides. I see women all the time with horrible menstruation and headaches. And then we do a parasite protocol for that, and boom, symptoms reduce drastically. So those are some of the bigger ones. I tried not to go into the really all-encompassing ones because sure, parasites can cause fatigue and brain fog and achy joints and tiredness, but so can Lyme and Babesia. So it gets a little bit overlapping with so many of these infections and toxins.
Yeah. So what's the typical duration of a protocol for, because I've talked to some people and they're sort of like, yeah, I'm on month 8 or 9. And some people, it causes a little bit of mental distress. I mean, wouldn't you? I've talked to people that have an easy time with it and they can go on it for a longer period of time, and they're just waiting for it to slow down, I guess. And then I've also spoken to people that, it's kind of hard mentally to understand that there are things actually living and feeding off of you, and in that way. And can you talk a little bit about the duration and also maybe some, like, the mindset that you need to go into a parasite cleanse?
Yeah, so I'll start with the mindset piece because mindset is such an incredible piece of healing. You have to have the right mindset if you're going to really make the great progress and then stick to it long enough to be well. So at this point, I think it's well accepted that bacteria are a part of our organism, right? Like there are 40,000 named bacteria in my digestive tract. So we are aware of this. People take probiotics and prebiotics because we know bacteria is there. Parasites are the same thing, and viruses too. They are all in us. We have to end this fear cycle of, and this cleanliness cycle that we're stuck in, especially in the westernized countries, thinking that we are this above other organism stature and we aren't dealing with them. So that's the first step of the mindset. Just realize, like, look, they're there, whether you like it or not, whether you think they're dirty or not, and they're never going away, not completely. They need to be in balance. So parasites don't have to be ugly, big, nasty worms. 70% of them are actually microscopic, right? They're single cellular organisms, so you can't see them. So I'm not always talking about this nice, big, long 6-foot worm that I get pictures of every once in a while. I just had a woman send me a picture that she's had some interstitial cystitis for years, and
Oh,
she peed out a nice little worm into
no
the
way.
toilet.
So
Yeah,
it can come out of your urinary tract as well.
your eyes and nose too.
Okay. Okay, we're
So
just gonna take a minute about that one. Yeah, but I mean, what's your average duration that somebody would actually be on? I have no idea.
So this is where it gets a little complicated because depending on the doctor you're working with and the program you subscribe to, it's going to say different things. But my experience has been this: parasites are not alone. You also may have Lyme or mold or these other things. And when we're looking at trying to do the most that we can with the most effective time frame, I do typically start with parasites. Honestly, when I'm working with somebody, about 70% of the time, even if they have mold, radioactive elements, Lyme, Babesia, and parasites. And my parasite protocols probably last anywhere from 60 to 90 days. Again, assuming that this person is able to do the protocol and I don't have to modify it, slow it down, chop it up because their body's more reactive, which I work with a lot of reactive people. But in a perfect world, it'd be 60 to 90 days of parasite. That does not mean we're done and all parasites in your body are annihilated and killed. It means that we have reduced their imbalance back to a more normal state, to where I need to move on to get a new higher priority, which could be Lyme disease or getting rid of fungal infections or mold colonization in your body. Because if you have mold colonization and you do 9 months of parasite work, as soon as you stop parasites, they're coming right back, because the parasites are going to feed on the mold, and they're going to love living in your body because you're immunocompromised. So it's really taking that broad picture and going, okay, if I get some parasites out because they were blocking up my gut, causing me to be constipated, then I go after some bacteria and some mold. Sure, parasites might regrow a little bit, but when these things come down, then I can go back and just, do a little month of parasite and everything's lowering down. So that's how my brain works. I don't ever do I'm going to annihilate all parasites for a year and then I'm done with parasites forever, because that just hasn't seemed to work. It's
Okay.
Let me go over here and suppress this. I'm going to jump in here and suppress this. I'm going to go over here and do this. And I'm going to come back around, and then we're going to lower it again. And that has worked much better, because again, annihilation just isn't a reality. It's about getting your body's ability to suppress, heal, and control its immune system, and be able to adapt to stresses in life, which could be anything from organisms to toxins to traumas.
So it sounds like, because we constantly eat food, that, this may be just sort of a lifelong, check-in every, occasionally you check in, you might do a little mini parasite cleanse.
It absolutely is. I actually developed a little tiny course, like a cheap course. I think it's $49.99, and it was do these 3 protocols once a month over the full moon. And then once you've done that, and we've gotten rid of the bulk of things for an average person, not necessarily chronically ill person. So chronically ill person, we got to do some other work. But for your average everyday, person, do these 3 to get where you need to be. And then once a quarter, do a full moon cleanse. And I lined it up with 4 different herbals so that you touch on different things as you're going through. And I do that every year, because each quarter I'm just making sure I'm keeping myself well. This is no different than going to the dentist twice a year for your teeth. This is no different than getting your yearly checkup with your medical doctor, or what every other country knows they should be doing that's not westernized, which is a twice a year parasite cleanse already. So this is just teaching the people that I'm working with, like, hey, look, these are some of those things that we should all do. We should also do a fast once or twice a year that is more than 3 days, because that helps to get our body through autophagy, which gets rid of our weak, dead, not operating well tissue and cells. So there's a lot of good things we can do, and that's just another one to add to our list of how to be optimized.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. I did actually naively think it was sort of a one and done thing, like that you would go in and attack these parasites. But obviously, with a compromised immune system, it might just be that perfect breeding ground for things to happen a little more easily to people like us. And so just staying on top of it, doing some preventative treatments, herbal treatments. How long is your course?
So the course was designed to be about 3 months long, again, for your average person, and then which each month is about 11 days of treatment. And then after that, it's once a quarter for anywhere between 5 and 11 days.
Okay, so the preventative would be 5 to 11 days. I think we can all do that, and that's available on your website.
Or it is, yeah. It's
okay.
in my link tree, my website, I guess, all the social medias and everything.
Yeah.
My e-store.
Do you have to be examined by you, or have a virtual conference with you first before going on some of these the treatments? Or let's say you're somebody like myself that's basically healed myself from Lyme, but I want to just do something like this 4 times a year. Would I be able to just buy it online from you?
Yeah, you can get in my e-store, which the password is simple, DR, my first name, Jaban. Just jump in my e-store, and then you can purchase the course, and it's easy to get to there, and anyone can get it. Now, again, if you're chronically ill and highly sensitive, I would recommend seeing a doctor, but that's a different category.
Okay, so if somebody came into you in an acute state, they're literally at the worst of the worst. What what order of these toxicities? What order would you go in through for a detox? Would you start with parasites or mold or heavy metals? How would you approach it?
So I start outside in first, which is make sure you're in a safe environment. Like I'm looking at you right now, you're in a house, right? Is the house safe? Do we know that it's mold free? So that's step one. Step two, what water do you drink? Is it clean? For me, distilled water is the only water I'm going to drink. Yes, I will put organically bound minerals back in it, and I will also put it through something to structure it. That's what I'm doing because I want to drink clean water and breathe clean air so that my body is in a safe place. Do you have any parasites that are in your personal life, such as people that are stressing you the heck out, or things that are stressing you out and keeping you from healing? So that outside part, we get that cleaned up nice. That's step one of our detox. Step two is we got to get our body's detoxification pathways opened up. So you got to make sure your liver, kidney, lymph, skin, and lungs are all as good as they can be while you're in your acute state. That doesn't mean that they're working perfectly. We just make sure that we support those organs through things like castor oil packs, coffee enema saunas, liver and kidney support supplements like Lympactive, kidney liver support, TUDCA. And then once we have a safe place, open detox pathways, that's when we move forward into typically the order of infections and toxins that I go through is parasite, bacteria, mycoplasma, mold, fungus, radioactive elements, heavy metals. If I ever have to get to candida yeast, I would go to that next, and then viruses. And that would be the order that I usually see the operations. And that does not mean that throughout that process, depending upon the person, I could be, all the way down from parasites to heavy metal. I might come back around and do a little parasite work while I'm doing heavy metal, just to keep that parasite suppressed a little bit while we're still on our healing journey.
It's great to know. I mean, people really love specific protocols, and because it's just so easy to hear a little soundbite of people saying, take care of your parasites, do a parasite cleanse, da, da, da. It's actually so much more involved than that. And I like your methodical way of approaching it. So on your website, you talk a lot about your favorite treatments that are available off your website. Things like DNR, you have a moisture reader for mold, an EMF reader. Can you talk a little bit about a few of those things? I mean, maybe just starting with the DNR, because I'm a big believer in that as well.
Yeah, so DNRS is a limbic retraining tool. So it's Annie Hopper's course basically. And what it is it's retraining your brain through thought exercises to perceive stress differently. So that's the way that I like to describe it. So for instance, if you walk into a house and you're already panicked because you think it might have mold, you're already in a state of immune flare and fight or flight, which is going to make you wear out your body to react no matter whether or not there is mold in there. And then another piece, if you've already healed yourself and you still have that panic, or if you walk into a house and you smell mold and you get a migraine within minutes and you're down and out, this is a massive overreaction of your nervous system. And DNRS is designed to help you to train your brain out of some of those types of reactions, which we all can use, especially because a lot of people that are sick are chronically worried about everything, the food they eat, the water they drink, the air they breathe. They're so worried about it all the time. The nervous system is just on fight or flight, and it's just too much. So DNRS, Gupta, limbic retraining, phenomenal tools. There's something else you can do is neurofeedback, which I've been using a tremendous amount recently. I had a girl come to my clinic who she was a staff member, a new staff member. She came down and I had cooked food, and I knew she had a pretty restrictive diet, and going out to lunch for her would be harder than for me. So I offered her my organic chicken that was grilled with 0 spice on it, because I put spice on later, and she wouldn't eat it. So she went home and grilled organic chicken, the same brand, and then she ate it. And I was like, okay, so there's a lot of fear in there. And after going through neurofeedback, she was able to introduce 12 new foods over the next week. And before she came, she took a quarter of a capsule of a lymphatic drainage supplement and reacted pretty poorly for 2 days. after she took 4 and had no reaction. This was from neurofeedback for 1 week, which was about 10 sessions. So I love using brain tools to help bring down that nervous system overdrive, right? So DNRS, neurofeedback, EMDR, binaural beats, essential oils that can be put behind the ear to affect the vagal tone, which is your vagus nerve work. So vagus nerve exercises. These are all nervous system things. Some other tools I've used is I've used an amp coil. I've used frequency specific technique. Both of these are specific frequencies that can help get the body to focus on something like, again, bring the nervous system down or detox or, focus on healing the brain. So you use certain frequencies to trigger the body to do something. I use red light therapy, saunas, coffee enemas. These are all amazing tools that can be brought in to use for somebody that's chronically ill, because we need a big toolbox when it comes to someone who is chronically ill and highly reactive. And those are all just tools that we implement in with our clientele, many of which we have in our clinic. But since I'm 98% virtual, working with people around the world, a lot of these tools I've found resources like Therasage to order a sauna or a red light through, or I've got, my Amazon page where I put all the different coffee enema tools on there where you can just order that and then have that for your home.
An amp coil is something I don't talk a lot about, although I think I even actually have one on my own website. And can you talk, does that specifically target the vagus nerve? And does it work in the same way that, they always say, like, if you hum or, like make those kinds of noises with your, you can get yourself out of a fight or flight with the vagus nerve. You can calm it down a little bit. Is that working in the same way, or is it completely different?
A little bit different. So PEMF technology is what they're using. So pulse magnetic field therapy is what they're using, and then they're programming that to have a specific frequency, because everything has a vibration in your body. Everything has a frequency that it vibrates at. So they're using this pulse magnetic therapy to trigger proper frequencies to get your body to do something. And it's passive. So you're just sitting there with a pulse magnetic coil and you're just sitting there holding it and allowing that to have an effect on your body. Whereas humming and doing vagus nerve work, you specifically are activating the vagus nerve and building it. So they're both working potentially on vagus nerve. If you're using that setting for the amp coil, you can also use settings where it's for detox or do this for my organs, or I think they have settings called vitality, which work on getting your body to target different organisms. So this is a kind of like a computer command code. When you think about amp coil or frequency specific technique, it's using specific coding to tell your body to do something, like you would type into a computer to do a task and then have an automation go and do it. Whereas vagus nerve work is you actively doing it. So that's also the difference between DNRS, which is you actively doing the therapy, versus neurofeedback, it doing it for you, which for many of my very chronically ill people, they can't do it for themselves yet. So those passive therapies can be hugely beneficial. And then the homework is go home and do things that stimulate your vagus nerve or your limbic system on your own.
And the neurofeedback, how is that administered? I mean, what does that treatment look like?
So it's sound, light, and color therapy used through glasses and headphones. So it's actually really easy. Like literally, we hook you up to a machine which runs an EEG. You sit in the chair and we put glasses that have flashing light, and that can be very high or very low brightness. So some people that are more sensitive, we put just low brightness. And headphones that create sound that trigger your brain to go into certain brainwave patterns. And that can be targeting, do we need to bring down anxiety? Do we need to bring down depression? But my favorite is what I call autoimmune PTSD. It's where your nervous system is so overreactive to everything that it is draining your energy and it's causing you to be, say, allergic type reactions to maybe every food or mold or every stress response that you have due to people.
Smells, lights, things, smells.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we put this on there. We bring down those reactions through the sound, light, and color. You just get to sit there for 30 minutes and relax. We do that twice a day for 5 days. And then people fly back home to California, or, I just had 3 people in from Oklahoma. I've got a couple coming from Texas here Monday, and they're just driving in, spending 10 days, going on vacation, except for the hour in the clinic, and then when they go home, now their nervous system is a little calmer or a lot calmer. I mean, I've had people where it's a little calmer, and they're now not as reactive to when somebody touches them on the shoulder instead of that huge freak out. It's just like, oh, okay. To people who used to have almost stroke-like symptoms when they walked into Walmart, now they walk into Walmart and they're fine. And it was just because of all the different air chemicals or air qualities that the candles in there are triggering them to have a negative reaction.
That is crazy. I kind of like that treatment. I like the sound of that, to just go and relax and have it be more of a passive treatment without drugs, without medication, and something that, yeah, I think, we talk a lot about the fact that what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was I predisposed to fight or flight tendencies from birth? Or did it get exposed throughout the years, through just different toxins entering our bodies and whatnot? I think that sounds like a great, it really rings true for me. I think there's a lot more on the horizon for that type of treatment. So, Dr. Jaban, I really appreciate everything. We're coming to the end of our session. I just wanted to say thank you very much. I want to welcome you to say any last words to some of our warriors out there listening to this, and then we'll talk about how to get in touch with you.
Now, my last words are taking us back to that hope section I talked about earlier, which is just make sure that you're responsible for the thoughts that you're having. You are the lead of your care plan. You're in control. It's not to say that you don't need to hire a doctor to help you, but if you're thinking, I'm not going to get better, I'm not going to be well, I can't do this, then that's going to ring true for you. So although it's hard and the journey is long, and maybe you've been to 20 doctors and it's been 20 years, find a way to have hope and put affirmations on your mirror. Listen to testimonials of people that have overcome this, because you can overcome this. You deserve to overcome this. You've just got to keep fighting and taking those steps. So just have hope. So many people have gotten better. Myself, I've gotten better. The clients, the testimonials we put on our site. And I honestly, I tell people when they're better, I'm like, hey, look, I know once you're better, you want to avoid all the Facebook pages and you want to avoid going back and looking at this. It's almost traumatizing, but can you give me a testimonial so that we can put that out there just to give people hope, because it's so important. So if you're listening to this, don't be overwhelmed by the fact that there's stuff to do. There's possibly parasites in your horizon. Just know that honestly, the more you have wrong, the better you're going to feel as you get rid of these things. So when I run labs on people, I'm like, here's our laundry list of what we got to do. I'm like, man, it's great to see so many things on there, because that just means you have that much more opportunity to get well. I'm like, that's a good way to think of that. Mm-hmm. So just find ways for positivity. And I promise it's going to affect the way that you heal, the speed that you heal at, because you can and will heal.
Absolutely. Amen to that. And where can they find you?
I have so many places anymore.
TikTok. You're a busy person. But tell us about some of those, and also how they would go about doing a virtual with you.
Yeah, so I've got TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, social medias, and then we've got my website. They're all Dr. Jaban or drjabanmoore.com. So just look up my name. You'll be able to find me on any of those mediums. And within any of them, you can click the link, and then you can schedule a discovery call with my clinic. My new client coordinator will take care of you from there, Natalie or Heather, and they'll just walk you through the process of what we do in our clinic, if you're a good fit, and just how to best serve you. And if we're not the best for you, we're going to try and give you a name of somebody that can help you, because in the end of all this, we're a community, we're a family. If you've had Lyme, you're part of the family, right? We just simply want you to feel better.
Thanks again for coming on today. I hope to see you soon. I think I will. And I look forward to working with you in the future.